Hi, I'm Leanne, and this is the Everyday Princess. Now, this past month, I have been telling love stories each week, and I had one more, so I'm going to go into March and just tell one more love story, an unusual love story about a slave, a younger brother, and his older brothers sold him into slavery because they hated him. But let me go back a little bit. This younger brother, when he was 17, had a dream, and he shared it with his brothers. And you have to understand, in this case, the father had already made it obvious that he was the favorite son, and there was already unrest in the family because of this unfairness. And then on top of that, the brother, he was 17 at the time, he said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." Now, are you thinking that the older brothers are going to be happy to hear their brother say he had this dream? His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" The brothers were jealous. Not surprising, even though the father rebuked him. And then the brothers were out in the fields, and the father said, "Go out and see your brothers." The brothers were so angry and so jealous that they devised a plan to kill their younger brother. And the oldest, Reuben, said, No, don't kill him. He is our brother. We'll just put him in a pit." And the brother's thinking, "And I'll get him later and rescue him." Well, the brother comes to the fields. They take his coat, this beautiful coat that the father had made especially for his favorite son. They threw him in a pit, and then they had lunch. And then they thought, one of them says, "Well, we could sell him. There's some Ishmaelite traders going by. We could sell him and then just tell our father that, that he was killed by wild animals. We'll get some blood from an animal and put it on his coat." And that's what they did. The oldest brother came back and was just so upset to discover that they had sold their brother. And they went back and they lied to their dad. Now, this sounds more like a TV show than a family, but this is a family. This is a real family, and it did happen. And so the younger brother was then sold by the traders to a higher up in the government in Egypt, and God blessed everything that this younger brother did. His name was Joseph, and anything he touched was fruitful and good. And his boss, Potiphar, his owner, made him second in command, and basically didn't have to do anything because Joseph took care of everything. And then one day, unfortunately, the wife of Potiphar had her eye on Joseph and wanted to sleep with him. And she pushed and pushed, and he said, "No, I cannot do that to my boss. This is wrong. No, I can't." Until she grabbed his coat and he ran. I call it doing a Joseph. And you get in that situation, run for it. And she still had the coat, and she lied and said that he had attacked her. And so Potiphar put him in jail. And there he sits. He hasn't done anything wrong. And he is far from home, away from his family, sitting in jail. And he hadn't done anything. The poor guy. But in all this, you never hear him say that he hated God or that he was, turning his back on God. He stayed faithful to God. In jail, there's the head baker and the head cupbearer of the Pharaoh, and they had dreams. And God used Joseph to tell them what the dreams meant. One would die and one would live. And the one that lived, he said, please don't forget me. Don't leave me here. Help me get out of here. Well, he did forget him. But 2 years later, Pharaoh had a dream, actually 2 dreams. And he said, how do we find out what these mean? And the cupbearer said, I know somebody. And they brought Joseph out. And Joseph said, only God can tell you what a dream means. And God used Joseph to tell Pharaoh that there was 7 years, there was 7 fat cows, 7 skinny cows was the first dream. And basically the meaning was there's going to be 7 years of good crops, really good crops, and there's going to be 7 years of famine, and you need to get ready. You need to plan and you need to save food in the first 7 years to feed in the second. And he did. And again, God blessed Joseph and everything that he did. And again, he rose up and was second in command to Pharaoh. Amazing, but a true story. He's still far from his family. He still is away from his homeland. But and what really surprises me, and I ask the question of myself again, he's powerful. Why didn't he send a message to his dad and say, Dad, I'm alive? I don't know. Got any thoughts? Well, then the famine came. The good years came and they saved the food. The second 7 years came and eventually the brothers came down to get food. And there before Joseph were his brothers asking for food, not knowing that Joseph was Joseph. And Joseph didn't just go and say, hey, you, it's me. He wanted to test them and he wanted to see if they changed. And he made them bring back the youngest brother who was not with them at the first time, and he held one of the brothers in jail so that they would come back. And eventually they did, although the father was brokenhearted and afraid that he would lose his other younger son. And Joseph even put their money back in their sacks when they went home to get Benjamin and tell their dad what had happened. They were really scared. And they were really scared. They end up bringing Benjamin back and had this meal and were treated fine. And on their way home, Joseph put a silver cup, as well as all the money back. He put the silver cup in Benjamin's sack and sent his men and brought them all back again and said, hey, why are you doing this? And this was an opportunity for the brothers to show they had changed, that they were different, that they were going to protect their brother and not sell him out, that they wouldn't lie to their father again, that they would do what was right. And in this case, Judah, one of the brothers, he did. He said, please, our father will die. It will kill him if we lose Benjamin. Please take me. They were ready to do anything to protect Benjamin. And it came to the point where Joseph sent everybody out of the room, all the staff and servants. And he said, it's me, Joseph. And I want to read you what he said. Very moving. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, make everyone go out from me. So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence, scared to bits, I'm sure. So Joseph said to his brothers, come near to me, please. And they came near, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. See, he doesn't pretend it didn't happen. He says what happened. And it was wrong, and it was sin what happened. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go get my father. And they all came. But just imagine to have that perspective, that big perspective, to know that our Heavenly Father, He has the last word. He thinks ahead. He knows everything at all times. He is all powerful. And He set this in motion. I mean, just stop and think. The brothers meant it for evil, and God took it and turned it around and used it to provide for so many. And when we think about Jesus' death on the cross, this great love, this love story above all love stories, the people that killed him, they meant it for evil. They wanted to kill somebody that was to them in the way, a rival. And God meant it for good. Isn't that reassuring? Isn't that, to me, just the best love story? That for those who love Him, He can take whatever it is and turn it around and use it for good. There's so much evil in this world, and it's such a horrible situation for so many. But there is hope for everybody, for those who believe, for those that receive the gift of God's grace, of salvation, of forgiveness. This world can't hold that back. It's there for each one of us. Accept His love, accept His gift, and see what God does. And how wonderful His great love is. So, dear ones, if you would like, that's it for today, but if you would like to subscribe and hear each week the announcement that there's another video out with the Everyday Princess, then you can tap on subscribe and tap on the bell. Lord, I pray that many would hear this good message, that it would go out far and wide, the truth of your love, of your sacrificing your Son that was meant for evil by people, but you knew it would save many, much, much more than the famine in that time. Amen. Until next time.